I'd like to welcome 28-year-old Charlie Barnes into the studio. He's a Lichfield-based musician and a touring member of Bastille. Hi, Charlie.
Hello.
Great to have you in.
Thanks for having me.
We've been playing your song, All I Have, loads on the show. We love it.
Thank you very much.
So we're looking forward to you actually playing some live songs on the show tonight.
Yeah, hopefully it'll go all right.
But we've got loads to talk about, haven't we? And first of all, congratulations, just because you've just come back from honeymoon, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I'm married, which is good fun. So I had a lovely week to kind of let it all sink in, and yeah, now back to just normal married life. Lots of cups of tea and I don't know.
And lots of music as well, because
yeah.
You're just about to, or you've just released your new album, Oceanography.
Yes, it came out yesterday, and I'm very pleased that it's kind of finally out and about in the world. Some of those songs have been in my head for a long time. Some of the choruses, one chorus in particular is actually quite old. It's 15 years old. But it was, kind of a long process of kind of thinking about the songs for a long time with my producer Steve, sending emails back and forth to each other, and then we had a very swift couple of months of like really hammering stuff together and making decisions, and then turned it into the label. And I don't think they were expecting it to kind of happen. It sort of came out of nowhere a little bit for them, and yes, now it's ready to go, and it's out. You can hear it. Please go and listen to it.
We'll talk about it more in just a bit, and you're actually going to be performing songs from the album during the session tonight. But let's take it back right to the start and how you got involved in music. So where did it all begin for you?
Well, my kind of introduction to music in the first place was at a family friend's house in the Cotswolds one weekend when I was about 6 years old. And being the annoying small child that I was, I needed entertaining. So they stuck on all of their Queen VHS tapes for me for the weekend, and my tiny mind was blown. So I got a guitar for my next birthday. Unfortunately, it was a nylon strung Spanish classical guitar, so I couldn't quite impersonate Brian May as I had intended to. So I gave it up for a little bit, and then got back into playing in my teens. Played in loads of bands around Lichfield and the surrounding area.
Name check some of the bands then.
So the first band I was in was called 8 Frames a Second, and my major moment was my band My Falter Syndrome, who were mostly Birmingham based, and we were sort of a cheap imitation of Ocean Size, who were our collective favourite band at the time. And then off to university, and I started dabbling with electronic beats and stuff. Along the way, ended up being a sort of a touring person, because I met lots of musicians and bands who kind of needed help on the road, doing like tuning guitars or selling t-shirts or playing keyboards or whatever. And yes, it's been a pretty fun journey. But
you're not just any touring person. I mean, you're a touring member of Bastille, one of the biggest bands of the moment. So how did that come about?
I've always hated the whole, like, it's not what you know, it's who you know thing. That's the most frustrating thing to say to a aspiring musician, I think. But unfortunately, that was the case. But I think that the reason I got the job was because I've always said yes to things. I've always been keen and always kind of asked what's going on. And basically, a friend of mine, Stephen, who's was the frontman of a London-based band called Revere, needed someone to stand in on keys for a couple of shows around Europe, and so I said yes, and did those shows with them. And then because of doing that, one day he was out and about with a friend of his who said, "Oh, do you by any chance know anyone who's reasonably good at backing vocals, can play guitar and keys and bass, and kind of be a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none type, and to possibly play with some sort of arena-sized touring band," which was all of the information we had. And Stephen said, "Yep, I know a guy," and put me in touch. And then a CV happened, and then an audition happened a bit later on, and then a phone call happened, and then some Victory alcohol happened.
I was going to say, what was it like when you found out you were going to be, playing with them?
I was convinced I didn't have the job. I mean, the audition went really well, and I really enjoyed it, and we had a really nice chat afterwards, like me and the guys from the band. But then I left and spoke to my friend, collaborator, and life guru Ryan for the remainder of the day about every nuance of the kind of 40 odd minutes I was in there.
That always happens.
Yeah. And after that, I just kind of thought, wow, they're going to have auditioned loads of people, and this is London, big scary London. So there'll be some amazing, super pro session musician type who'll get the job. And then a few days later, I got the call, and they said like, all right, yeah, you start next week. And I had to sort of sheepishly go into the coffee shop I was working at the time and say to my boss, I'm really sorry, but I have to quit now.
You weren't sorry though, were you?
I mean, I was. He's a great guy, and it's a wonderful coffee shop, and we had some good times. But I'm not gonna lie, the kind of traveling around the world, playing gigs, and seeing a load of your favourite bands for free is maybe ever so slightly better than working in a coffee shop. Slightly.
And what's it been like?
3 years of boundless joy, I would say. I'm very fortunate in that the band themselves and the crew that they work with are just uniformly very nice people, and it's a real strong family unit. Everyone gets along really well. Everyone looks after each other, which is really important when you're away from home for weeks on end. Like it can be quite tough on the old mental health from time to time.
That's
but it's been amazing. I mean, like I've got to play all of these venues that I never in a million years dreamed that I would actually get to play, and like doing festivals alongside my biggest heroes, and like.
But you also get to make your own music.
Yeah.
And that's what you're here to do tonight. You're actually here to play some of the tunes. So should we get to your first tune tonight?
Yes.
What's this going to be?
So this song is called Bruising.
With all of last night's glitter showing, I have tried everything, I have tried everything, but I can't help the bruising, 'cause I'm so thin-skinned. I have tried everything, I have tried everything, but I can't stop the bruising. I can't be a mouth for the demon of doubt, with all of last night's glitter showing. Oh, oh, oh,
That was Charlie Barnes performing Bruising, his first session track of the night. We've got 2 more to come. We were just talking before about Bastille, and I could talk to you about them all night because it sounds like it's just been the most amazing opportunity. But you're going back on tour with them soon, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, back to work at the end of this month, and then into April. Back to the grindstone, sort of.
So you obviously then go away for quite a long time, do you?
Yeah, it can be. It varies. Like we've got a festival or 2, and then there's a tour of a few weeks that we're doing around like posh concert halls, where we're playing sort of reimagined versions of their songs. So we did last year. We did a charity show at Union Chapel in London for a homeless charity called Streets of London, and it was supposed to just be our kind of usual, what we do when we turn up to a radio session like this, kind of slightly unplugged type thing. But instead, everyone decided that they wanted to, really go for it, and so we had a string quartet, a brass trio, a 6-piece gospel choir, and we did these completely reimagined versions of the songs. So the version we did of Pompeii on that show didn't have like a echo in sight at all, and it was completely a cappella, just with the choir and Dan singing.
It was amazing.
I mean, that in a show. I mean, there are a couple of moments in the gig because as well there were some songs, some like sort of album tracks from the first album that don't get played anymore. That again was just Dan on his own or just Dan with the choir, and Kyle, the keyboard player, and I just kind of we sort of walked off stage a little bit for them to just focus on that, and we're sort of sat at the side of the stage kind of hugging each other, welling up a little bit because it was just beautiful. So I think that the fortunate few who managed to get tickets for it are in for something quite special. It's going to be
sounds
pretty
great.
cool. And I very, very fortunately for me, I got a text the other night from Dan, and he asked us like, "Would you be up for opening up on the gigs, doing an acoustic set?" So I get to do a few of my tunes first as well,
That's
which
fantastic.
will be
on stage.
pretty cool. Yeah.
That'll
So
be amazing.
yeah, I'm kind of the opening act, and then our friends To Kill a King are doing a kind of an acoustic-y set after that. So it's going to be a real lovely warm set of evenings of friendship and acoustic tunes.
That sounds great.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then kind of the festival season begins after that. So there's a few starting to crop up, which will be good fun. I get to go and see loads of my favourite bands for free again. So love it. Love festival season.
Oh, you're living the best life. But you just mentioned Dan there. I mean, he's described you as the best singer in the band. So he said that in a Radio 2 interview, didn't he?
He did. He's very sweet. Very nice. Yeah, I think I don't know if it's like breaking protocol or something, but they like when we do some of those like weird mashup cover versions that they're obviously quite well known for doing. Dan kind of ropes me in to do some big dramatic sort of big operatic vocal bit at some point in the songs usually, and so yeah, I believe it was Dermot O'Leary who was quite complimentary, which was very exciting for my nan to hear. So
That's brilliant.
He's sweet. I mean, he's lying, but he's very sweet.
He's definitely not. I've heard you perform live. You're great.
Thank you very much.
And you've also managed, amongst all this touring with Bastille, to produce your own album and write your own album. So you mentioned a little bit before about how long it's taken you to put it all together, but just tell us how you managed to do it all whilst you're on tour.
Basically, I finished my last album, and then it took quite a long time to actually finally release it because I poured my life savings into making it on my own, and then after that decided to try and find a label, which is sort of the backwards way of doing it. So in the interim, I had like a solid kind of year almost to sit around in my flat and go and do shifts at the coffee shop and think about how I wasn't at that exact moment being particularly successful and feel very woe is me about it all. So I kind of wrote quite a lot of the album before the last one even came out, but they just existed as like guitar and voice things or piano and voice things. And then it was after basically my last album came out, and then I immediately had the job with Bastille, so I was obviously very busy touring around with them, and it was after about the first year-ish of touring with them that I started to realise, like, look, you've got so much free time during the day because you sound check and then you've got hours until the gig. So I just got into the habit of actually doing work in the afternoon, and setting up with my laptop, my little keyboard and whatever, or a little microphone, and actually fleshing out the arrangements while on tour. And I would email the results of that over to my producer Steve, and then he would do some stuff to it, send it back to me. And then towards the end of the Wild World album campaign, I sort of started to see some solid gaps of time and thought, right, let's get it done. Booked in a few days in a studio in Leeds with my drummer, and I started going to little recording studios nearby the venues that we were playing for like a few hours in the afternoon. It was pretty much like a patchwork laptop production job. Like Dan always has, or where possible, has a writing room set up at the venues that we play, so because he does a lot of writing while on tour, and again similarly kind of sends the stuff off to his producer, and I just kind of saw how he was working and felt very guilty that I wasn't being more productive with my time, and thought, right, okay, I should probably crack on with something, and yeah, so then it via however many hotel rooms and dressing rooms and whatnot, it got done.
And you've got Oceanography, and it's out. Well, it was out yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it came out yesterday, and people are kind of excited about it, which is nice. I don't have any grand designs on becoming a megastar through it or anything like that. I just basically made an album that kind of is my best attempt at summing up the kind of all the stuff I like about music.
And we're going to hear another live song from the album now, so what are you going to play next?
I'm going to play Will and Testament.
Leave all your airs and graces at the cemetery gates. Beneath our bones and blood, we're much the same. The spoils of old, too much to hold in these lackluster hands that close around my neck as here I stand. Small fortunes left to lose, and yet these bullets halt and prove that fate or something else has got my back. Sentimental as ever, I'll find some new excuse to hide under. All the airs and all the graces, couldn't change how much I hate this house stripped bare. Not just a will and testament, filed away lest I forget. Not just a will and testament, filed away lest I forget. All the airs and all the graces,
Sounding amazing in the BBC WM studios tonight. That's Charlie Barnes with Will and Testament, and we've got him performing his new single All I Have, which we've been playing loads on the show in a few minutes' time. But let's talk about the artwork for Oceanography, the album, because that's actually been done by your wife.
It has. It was done by my wife. That kind of grew out of when she showed me the design for our wedding invitations, and she'd done this very interesting sort of inky swirl thing. Would you mind at all if I used that for my album cover? And so she was in charge of the visual. She just wanted to go for a really like clean, crisp looking thing, and I guess the sort of inky circle thing on the front of it has a bit of a hint of the ocean to it. But I think it looks really cool.
She's an art teacher in Lichfield, isn't she?
She is, yeah. She's an art teacher. So I suppose she knows her onions in that sort of world.
And what about touring with the album? Because you've got a few dates booked in around the UK, haven't you?
Yeah, so I've got a scattering of old haunts to go to around the UK, and a couple of new places, which will be fun. So the nearest one to here is next week or in a few days in Leicester at the Cookie, which is a venue I've played a couple of times in the past and always had a really good time there. It's good fun. So if you fancy the trip over, I promise I'll do my best. But hopefully at some point I'll find a gap to be able to bring myself and the chaps over to somewhere in Birmingham.
Yeah, because we should point out that you're performing acoustic tracks tonight, but actually your songs sound very different when played with the full band.
Yeah. It's a pretty big old production for the most part with the album. So Steve, my producer, he was the guitarist in a band called Ocean Size, who are my favourite band ever. Full Stop Pie. Went to see them 40 times.
Wow.
When they were together. I can't believe they are friends with me because I'm such an obsessive weird super fan. But basically they're a big old epic wall of sound type band, and so he obviously does a very good job of helping to make it sound very full and big, and I love big, full, dramatic, brash stuff. It's quite different to these versions, but I was quite conscious when I was writing this album that with the last one, because I'd gone kind of so hard into that like alternative rock, post-rock type sphere, that the times when I then went to go and play like solo cafe tours and stuff, which I do like a reasonable amount of, it was actually quite hard to pull some of the songs off solo, and they didn't some of them just don't really work when it's just me. So I was really conscious that I wanted to make sure that the foundation of these things was kind of okay in itself, to be just me and a guitar. So it's nice to be playing them this way, because this is the way that I played them when I was walking around my kitchen writing it, a few years ago or whatever.
And All I Have, that's the song we've been playing on this show a lot. That's your first single from the album. What's been the reaction to that? We absolutely love it.
Thank you very much. It's been great. I didn't think of it as being a single really, but it was when I sort of sent the list of the kind of the nearly done demos to the label. They all went, well, that's the first single. I think like a lot of the people who might have listened to the last album were not expecting me to come out with like a full-on like acoustic pop tune.
Song, yeah.
It's
so catchy.
Thanks very much. I actually wrote the melodies all in one go in a hotel room in Detroit just before we were going somewhere else. I like something popped into my head, got my phone out, sang it, and then went off to whatever cafe we were going to go and get some food from. And then a few weeks later I was at rehearsals and had some time to kill, so I was listening to it and got my guitar out and started coming up with the chords and stuff. So it was it's very much like melody came first with that one, so I guess maybe that's why it's become a bit of an earworm for people, which is nice. I didn't think I was the kind of person who could write an earworm. You've written one, but apparently it's been done, so success.
Charlie, it's been a pleasure to have you in, and I could talk to you all night. You've got so much to talk about, but we'll have to catch up with you again.
Thanks
at some
very
point.
much for having me. I would love to come back
Make sure you play in Birmingham very soon, because
I
we'd
will
like to
do.
come see
I
you as
will
well.
do. Yeah,
But
I'll,
good luck with the gig in Leicester, and also back on the road with Bastille. Would you like to introduce your final song of the night?
All right. Well, this is my last song that I will be playing, and it is called All I Have.
It's mine to gamble with, and I'll wear whatever fits. Why don't we all get worn down by our work, and we're left wondering what it's all worth? Somebody else will always get there first. When will my generation ever learn? But it's all I have, all I have, and even though it scares me half to death, oh, it's all I have, all I have. I try and try and try and try my best. The sum of all I have done might not add up to much. Some corners can be cut, and I'll bet my hero's word, and hope all this half-assed work I've done is worth however much a man my age can earn. But it's all I have, all I have, and even though it scares me half to death, oh, it's all I have, all I have. I try and try and try and try my best. Every time I've half a mind to throw a towel in, I find ten, I find ten. Every time I've half a mind to throw a towel in, I find ten, I find ten. 'Cause it's all I have, all I have. I might as well make something good of it. But it's all I have, all I have, and even though it scares me half to death, oh, it's all I have, all I have. I try and try and try and try my best.
BBC Music